Recorded live from Random Secret Studios across Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley.
I'm the capo. He's the prez.
And this is Sons of Ben, the pod. Gentlemen, welcome back after a holiday hiatus to episode number. Now, Adam, I'm going to test you. This could be one of two things. This could be episode Jamie Moyer, or if you want to go even more old school, if you're a Eagles fan or broadcast legend, G Cobb.
Okay, so I went to St. Joe's. You take a guess.
Jamie Moyer.
We doing Hawks all day, baby boy. That's all we doing now here. Jamie Moyer. Also, World Series pitcher and arguably the last man who could ever throw true junk and win baseball games. Like, no one's ever going to have an 86-mile-an-hour fastball and still be effective in modern baseball. That's never happening again.
And go like 6 innings in the World Series. It's unbelievable. So it's episode number 50. Now, Adam and Devin, we've done 50 episodes. We got to admit, like, if we don't want to get too bragging, we've been blessed with some, like, really amazing guests. I mean, people that put up with our shenanigans and our crap and then give our members the real deal about what they think about the Philadelphia Union, the Sons of Ben, soccer in Philadelphia. And, we've been graced with the charm of Katie Fellinger. We've had a Union legend, Sebastian Letou. We've had an American treasure in Alexi Lalas, a future Austrian star in Brendan Aronson. We've even had a journalistic pit bull in Mr. Jonathan Tannenwald from the Inquirer. But let me tell you, Adam, today's guest is the one person that I'm the most excited and a little nervous about. Now, our guest, he's a native of Manchester. I'm going to say he's a veteran of the wars in the Premier League. He's a pundit of the Premier League now, and he's the voice of your Philadelphia Union. Adam and Devin, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Danny Higginbotham. Danny, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me involved. It's something looking forward to. Obviously, been keeping a watching eye from a distance now for quite a while, and seeing the progression of everything. And obviously heard about yourselves quite a few times in terms of the fan base and everything like that. So it's the least I could do was come on and speak to you all.
No, we always appreciate anybody taking time out to deal with the three of us anytime. But we just wanted to get a little bit of background, then we got some housekeeping, and then get into it with you. But question for us, how does a young lad from Manchester find his way from Philadelphia? Like, find his way to Philly?
Yeah, well, obviously the background with it, my wife is, she's from Philadelphia herself, and what I found really interesting was, for the last 11, 12 years, been visiting Philly every summer, and then for some Thanksgivings, and then other parts of the year as well, and just how much Philadelphia is just so much sport driven, and it enticed me really, really quickly because there's a couple of areas obviously where I played football and things like that, and there's so many similarities, and what I used to love as well, the first few times that I would fly into Philly, when you fly over the stadiums and the closeness of the proximity of the stadiums. Obviously, Philadelphia Union being in Chester is a little bit further away, but we weren't far away from where my wife's mother and father used to live, probably maybe 5 or 10 minutes, something like that. And we used to always go running around the Eagles training ground. And it was just, I used to love the stadium, just everything about it. And then whilst I was over here, I'd watch a lot of the games on TV, the different sports and what have you. And it was something that really attracted me. Don't get me wrong, the plan was always to move to America long term, maybe a little bit earlier than what we expected. But when the opportunity came up to join Philadelphia Union, it was sort of a no-brainer, really. Everything had come together, which enabled me to have the work-life balance, enabled me to be where our family wanted to be, whilst also continuing to do what I want to do. And it was a short conversation with Philadelphia Union, and the beauty of it was that, when I had the conversations with Carl and Jordan at the club, it was, when was it now? Well, let me get this right. August 2019. And we just had a little bit of a conversation. I just said to them from then, it's something that when I went and met them, what really took me by surprise, and I mean this in the nicest possible sense, was the professionalism of everything. How everything was done, the training ground, just the quality of everything. it was something where I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. Their attention to detail, whether that be on the pitch or whether that be off the pitch. And what I then started to do, obviously I kept in touch with Carl, but I was getting the games sent to me every week. So it was great for me because obviously, you know, I had that part of the season, and then obviously there was everything that happened with COVID and what have you. And so I got to really watch a full season, give or take a few different things. Obviously, MLS is back, the tournament and everything, but I still got to watch all the games. So I was sent all of these games, was able to watch them. And what was good for me was coming over here was for me to know that if anybody wants to ask me any questions about Philadelphia Union, I'm not going to be racking up and just saying, oh, well, I'll get to understand that. I'll get to know this. You know, you want to talk to me about players, about how players did last season. You want to talk to me about how I feel the infrastructure is and everything like that, whether it be Jim Curtin or Ernst Tanner, anything like that. It's been brilliant for me, and the knowledge that I've gained in getting to know the club made me understand and appreciate and have so much respect for the club on the way that they're trying to do things.
I am just grateful they didn't reach out to you in 2015 because it would have been an entirely different impression from that. So,
Look, I'm just over here getting emotional with his description of the stadiums and the flyover, because I'm like, I feel the same way when I come home and I see, like, especially if there's a game going on, you see the lights on. It's been like I'm a season ticket holder for the Sixers. It's been a year since I've been down there, and I'm getting a little tingly. I miss it, you know, so much. So like, I mean, that whole area, the idea of just having all of those teams there, like, I know. Look, I love Chester, and Chester has become a home, and you know, I love what we're doing there as a team, as an organization, as a supporters group. But you know, having that complex there, even my friends from other big sports cities in America say that's one of the more unique experiences. They say they can, like, you can walk across the street from a Phillies game to a Sixers game in a 6-hour period, and we're like, that's not only something that you can do, it's commonplace. You know, that's a thing we do routinely, you know.
Yeah, well, I was able to. So obviously, when we flew over what was it? I think end of October, early November. I had to, obviously, we had to quarantine at the house, staying at my mother and father-in-law's house. But I was fortunate enough that I was able to go to the playoff game for Philadelphia Union. Unfortunately, the one that where they got knocked out, and there was supporters in there. And the amount of times that people, like when I've gone to other places around America so far with different bits of work and things like that, they talk about Philadelphia's in terms of supporters and things like that. They were like, oh, they'll get right behind you, but they'll tell you, you know, when you're not doing well and things like that. But that's great for me because that's a similar area to where I grew up. You know, I grew up in Manchester, and people say it how it is. They don't dress it up. And one of the things that I've always found as well is that some of the clubs that I played for, the fans were unbelievably passionate. But when fans are unbelievably passionate, you have to understand as well that when things aren't going to go right, they're going to tell you that as well. So it's a little bit of give and take. And I would much rather have that than just a set of supporters that win, lose or draw. They just, yeah, okay, that's fine. And, you know, I've played in games where I've been at certain clubs and we've been winning at half-time and we've been booed off. But then there's been other times when we've been playing and it's been 1-0 and we've got 15 minutes left and they've got us over the line. So I understand that, and that's something that I really appreciate and really respect, and something that I've heard a lot about and obviously seen for myself in certain circumstances. That's how Philadelphia supporters are. If they're behind you, you can't want for anything more, and they demand a high work rate. That's the minimum. And that's something that I've always been associated with, something that I've always adhered to myself growing up. And then when I became a professional, so there was a real connection there for me early on.
No, there's a lot of hard truths that come from the fans. Like, and I'll tell you, if your pocket square is not matching your tie, we're going to let you know on, you know, Twitter or Instagram.
But I've got an excuse. I'll just say this is the English style.
But no, you were right. Carl and Jordan are two of the most professional people.
Unbelievable.
And you've got like such a great, and this year they finally partnered up with a radio station. So it's all coming together. For the Philadelphia Union as a media outlet. I mean, the teams started to come together, 18, 19, of course, 2020, you know, winning the Supporter Shield. So it really is, like, as a fan, as a season ticket holder since the first game, it finally feels like, wow, there's that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming at me. Yeah, so it's been fantastic.
I'm excited by it all because the conversations that I've had with Carl and with Jordan, there's been many conversations, many texts and things like that. Just just swapping ideas and things like that. One of the first things they both said to me was, what are your ideas? What do you want to do? What would you like to do? How can we help you? And I just thought that's really refreshing, because for me, what I want to do, Tommy, obviously, I've worked with Tommy on Sirius and things like that, and he's a legend within Philadelphia Union, and I appreciate that, I respect that, and what have you, 100%. And he's obviously, he will have a very different style to me, but he's unique. You know, he's a legend. What he's done over in America, you know, not just at Philadelphia Union, ESPN and things like that. So obviously, you have to try and maintain that, but also from my perspective, I may be a little bit different than Tommy, as in terms of doing things. But you're always looking and saying, right, okay, what can I do? Because one of the biggest things for me is that when I've come over to America before on holiday, and I don't know loads about American football, I follow it. I don't know loads about baseball, but I'll follow it. And I don't know loads about hockey, but I'll follow it. But what I want is that when I sit down in front of a TV and I watch one of those sports, I want to turn that TV station over when it's all finished and have learned something. And that for me that's a huge part of my job, that it might only be one person, but there may be one person tuning in, and I want one person or two, whoever it may be, at the end of the game to go, wow, I didn't know that. And that's how I look at it from myself, getting affiliated with American sports that obviously isn't soccer. And I love it when I listen to people over here talking about sports that I don't know too much about, and I find myself getting educated. And that has to be the idea of it when you're fronting something like that, whether it being a guest on a show, whether it be doing commentary, whether it be in a studio analysis. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and Adam will tell you, in Philadelphia, you are in elite company with the broadcasters, the color commentary people that cover the Sixers, the Flyers, the Phillies, the Eagles. I mean, these are people that have been in their jobs for 20 plus 30 years and you feel like they're guests in your house when you hear them
that's the
on
key
TV
to it.
or the radio. And you couldn't imagine anybody else but like a Merrill Reese calling an Eagles game. You know, there's, LA for me, I would rather listen to the radio broadcast for the Phillies just to listen to Larry Anderson. And so, you're in great company, and it's a fraternity. We've had a couple of guys, we talked to, and it really is. And Adam can kind of speak more to that than I can.
Yeah, I mean, I even say the fact that we have JP just in our booth is just like how did we get this lucky? That's like it's crazy, but it is indicative of the city. This is a sports crazed city, but it's a sports crazed intelligent city. The city knows what we're talking about. So it's so soccer has a unique place. Soccer's not new to Philadelphia. The Union are. But the game itself isn't new to this region, hence why our youth academy has such talent in it.
Which is brilliant. I love that.
We have a network and a system and veins within the soccer community, but we crave intelligent sports talk. We crave educational. We crave, we don't want you to candy coat it for us. We want, tell me what's happening. If the team is terrible, tell me the team is terrible. Some of the best quotes we have from our broadcasters when Merrill Reese is telling me the Eagles are terrible, telling me that Carson just threw another interception. That's what I want. And they're not homers. They're just, they're obviously wanting the team to win. They obviously, because that's the team they cover, but at the same time, they're like, we're not going to hold back. We're not going to baby you. And Philadelphians respect that. Any other way with us would be insulting to us.
Yeah, I think so. I agree completely. And one of the things is, obviously, over here, you have the color commentator and myself. I'll be the play-by-play. No, the other way around, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you're the other way around.
I'm the color. I'm the colour and the play-by-play. So then I know for a fact, with JP, and I've spoken to him on a few occasions, swapped texts and everything. From my perspective, since I got into this industry, what we would call the main commentator in England, his job is to tell you what has happened and what's happening in front of your eyes. That's not my job. My job is to then try and unpack it and say, okay, well, why has it happened? Why has it happened? What are my experiences of the game? Now, if JP says something and I'm just basically copying what he's saying, I'm not doing my job. My job is to say, okay, a goal has been scored, but why has that goal been scored? Why has the defender switched off? Is there an instance that I can give an example from my career, which there will have been quite a few of, where I've switched off or where I've made a mistake myself? So you then bring your own experiences into it. But then there's that fine line as well, because as you've just said, audiences now are probably more educated than they ever have been because of social media, because of how much opportunity there is to watch it on TV. So you want to make sure that you're not dumbing it down too much, but you also want to bear in mind that there will be people that are watching soccer and probably still trying to get educated as well. So it's about getting that balance and knowing your audience, and I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, and Philadelphia has had a legendary broadcaster for the Flyers, Gene Hart, and this was when the Flyers first came in, and he's probably the golden beacon light to look at, because he did a great job of educating a new sport to the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And you're talking about, that was like maybe my grandfather or my father,
Wow.
and it's gone through to everybody, where hockey got ingrained in people's blood, because he would tell you what was offsides, what was a 2-line penalty,
Yeah.
what was going on, why. But he did it in a way where it wasn't dumbed down. You didn't feel stupid. And I feel like that with soccer in the United States. Is I think there's a lot of guys that know football and baseball, but their kids play soccer, and then they feel embarrassed because they don't know the rules and can't explain it to their kids better than they can. So I think they just avoid the sport. Where if there's that little bit of lesson where they can sit there and go, you know what? Now I understand what the off. And listen, I don't know if I know what offsides is all the time.
There are so many things. Even myself as a former player, you're still learning all the time, because obviously there's new laws coming out and things like that. So, what I would do when I was in England, I would go and visit a referee, in his office, and just say, listen, please tell me the new laws and the new things that are coming in, because there are so many different ones that have little things. But I'm excited by it all, because as Philadelphia Union is growing as a team, and I don't think anyone can question that what's happening. I think there's so many teams around MLS that are looking at it and going, wow, what a product that is. It's unbelievable how they're doing it. They're bringing through their own. And I know, yes, we've seen with Aronson and we've seen with McKenzie, they get sold. But one of the things from when I was in England and from when I was playing in England, what supporters love is seeing a 11-year-old Aronson, an 11-year-old McKenzie coming through, and they feel as though, supporters then feel as though they found that player. So when they see that player evolving and developing, you feel as though that's your son that's developing. And when they leave the nest, it's like, oh, we don't really want him to go, but look where he's going. And inadvertently, what that does that then opens a whole other corridor, because all of a sudden, if I'm a parent in Philly and my son's doing well at football, there's only one place I'm wanting him to go, because I'm looking at the production line and I'm looking at what is available there and where the next step is. And all of a sudden, when you're looking at teams that are playing in Champions League, Europa League, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a great place to be.
Yeah, I know. I speak for a lot of people, and it's like, next month we'll be able to switch on European soccer and see somebody that played for the Philadelphia Union playing European soccer.
And that's proud.
Like
that must make supporters really proud.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not only that, they played for the Philadelphia Union, they came from our home. They came from the places that we grew up at. That's the craziness of being like, seeing someone from Medford, a place that we all driven through in our lives, and being like, yeah, he's over there in Austria right now playing in Champions League, just casually, and I think that above, look, Aronson, McKenzie, and eventually the other homegrowns that I know are going to make noise in their own respects, it is a driving force. And I think the uniqueness of your position right now is the fact that you're coming into a moment where the Union have never been trending more up, not only domestic, not only in the league, but locally. And you're going to have so many more eyes, so many more people who casually will be tuning into these matches who, for the first 10 years, might have just checked box scores, you know? And I think that's huge right now, because, the amount of people I know who were like, soccer sounds interesting. It seems like you're having a fun time down there in Chester. Maybe I'll come for a couple matches. They see the Glesnes goal against LAFC.
Yeah. What a goal that was.
The Rocket, they see they're playing the MLS's back tournament. They see them, not even before they get to the Supporter Shield, just playing quality soccer day in, day out. And they're just like, so this is what you were talking about. We were just like, look, this wasn't as good when we talked to you about it, but now it's actually quite nice. And if you want to come down, please,
But see, I love, obviously, like I say, I'm relatively new to it. I've been watching Well, I've been watching the Union now for a year and a half, and what I love is that, and I always say this about any team that wants to be successful has to have an identity. And I write, this is like, obviously, it's not something I'm sure that will be shown or anything like that, but this is like all my stuff. Every single game I do average positions, everything.
I like the highlighter usage. That's very good.
Oh, yeah. Just makes it look fancier than what it actually is.
Right? It makes it like real scientific. I got it. I love it.
So like what I would do, because obviously there's websites where you can go on. So every game for me was right, okay, Philadelphia Union, more often than not, they'll play a diamond. We know that if Ilsinho comes on at some point during the game, they'll likely change to a 4-2-3-1 and what have you. But more often than not, start with a diamond. You know that Martinez's going to be at the base of the diamond. Montero and Bedoya either side. Aronson at number 10. And then Shabil Cohen, as the season went on, Santos. You've got Wagner on one side, Gaddis on the other. Then you've got McKenzie. And then you either had Elliott or Glesnes. So for me, and obviously the best goalkeeper in the league in Blake. So for me, over this season, it's been brilliant to see not only the players grow because, okay, Jim Curtin makes some changes in the team, but the identity and the philosophy never changes. So from my perspective, watching that, it was like, right, okay, well, certain different players may come into the team, but the way that the Union plays isn't going to change. And I found that really good because that gives you a structure, gives you an identity and something that people can relate to, as well as the players knowing full well what's expected of them as well.
Yeah. Now the work and the work rate they put in.
Yeah.
Devin, before you slap me, let's do the quick housekeeping while we can. I know you were looking at it.
Where can I get in here?
How are we going to do this?
The cattle prod was in hand.
Yeah.
It was ready to go.
Real quick, beer of the pod, everybody. Yards, 2SP, and the Larimer. Danny, you have now joined a long list of people because of COVID that we owe a beer to.
Should we just have a party?
Either Yards, 2SP, or the Larimer always provide beers when we used to record in a studio.
Okay.
They also provide beers for our tailgates. So now that we're not in a studio because of COVID, but don't worry, we will still get those beers and get them to you. Yards is a Philadelphia legend. 2SP is right up the road from the stadium, and the Larimer is actually right in the complex. You probably have driven past it. Not even known.
Me and Maddie we're knocking down some 2SPs. We're actually doing the Sons of Ben beer today.
Nice.
Sons of Ben beer.
Yeah,
Very nice.
Shout outs to 2SP for making Here Before the Beer. It's a quality beer. Quality ale.
You'll find out that the Sons of Ben were basically branding whores. I admit that. So yeah, we have a beer, we have a coffee, you
have a coffee as well, do you? Yeah.
Oh yeah. From Herman's Coffee.
Yeah.
Now, Adam. Adam. I just want you to know it's been a while since we spoke.
Yes.
We had elections for the Sons of Ben.
We did.
I ran unopposed and I got 97, 98% of it.
Who didn't vote for you?
Well, that's what I'm going to accuse because guess what? The Adam Booth jinx is real. Danny, Devin threw his hat in the ring to become member at large to run our merchandise program.
Okay.
And Adam, on this very podcast, publicly opposed him. Told people not to vote for him.
I didn't oppose him. I just didn't endorse him. Is what
Devin lost. Devin did not win.
Did he? Oh,
so now I'm thinking, hey, I missed 2% of the election.
Why?
I'm wondering who might not have. I'm looking right at Adam. Probably didn't vote for me. And my father probably didn't vote for me.
Look, all I'm saying is I am lawfully chaotic. Sometimes,
is that what it is?
Sometimes I like to seed some sows, or seed the sow. Sow the seeds. There it is. Of the same Amasanu Matusa. Anyway.
I've got some different words for it, Adam, but I'll tell you after the pod. Don't worry.
Here's the thing.
So
sometimes you want to test to see how much influence you have, and apparently a lot.
So yeah, we had an interesting election, but congratulations to those who won. Devin, we'll still find jobs for you. Don't worry. It's all volunteer, so it's not like we're going to turn you away. We're not
I might
going to
have
pay
saved you. I don't even you don't even know. I might have actually done you a favor, Devin.
Yeah.
Like Ernst Tanner, the Sons of Ben are working on some off-season stuff. I can leak it. We're working on a couple more tailgate partners as well as possible travel agents. So when we go to these new places, and maybe even if we want to go see Aronson in Austria, we're going to partner up with a travel agent. Last couple reminders: World Cup 2026, Philadelphia2026.com. Sign up. Danny, the only reason I'm promoting this is somebody named me on the council to bring the World Cup to Philadelphia, so now I feel obliged to say Philadelphia2026.com all the time. I say it in my sleep.
I enjoy the progressive modesty that
was very modest.
Someone just added me to the committee. I'm only doing my civic duty. Don't worry
There's
about
like
me.
40 of us, trust me. It's not that glamorous.
No. Only 40 of us trying to bring a World Cup to a freaking 1.6 million person city. No big deal.
We've been lying. We've been saying 2.2 and everything for FIFA. So
it'd be a big Rocky story.
They're going to show up and realize Philly's this big in 2 minutes.
Last 2 points. Drunken Union Zoom. Danny, I don't know if you got accosted yet by this Twitter handle, but or if you've been on, but there is since the pandemic on Fridays at 7:30, there has been a drunken happy hour over Zoom, and they've been pretty successful in getting players, coaches, Alexi Lalas, a lot of guys. So I'm sure they're probably hitting you up on Twitter right now.
It sounds like a plan, yeah.
It's an interesting group, and Adam usually shows up around 9:30 at night and holds court till about 10 or 11.
Oh, what's fun is because we had Mackenzie on, and then that's when we found out that Mark Mackenzie's love of tequila, and particularly Patron. So now we had so many chants going for Patron afterwards. Like, I was trying to throw bottles at him, which is probably a crime of some sort, but I was at least trying to help the guy out. And, I'm hoping that, over in Belgium, their tequila game is solid. I know their beer game is out of this world, but the tequila...
I played in Belgium for a year.
Yeah.
I was at Royal Antwerp. And the fans over there, they are incredibly passionate. And all they want to do with you is get drunk with you after a game. That's all they're interested in. And my dad came over. My mum and dad came over one weekend because I was only 19. And there was some older lads, obviously big supporters of the club and that, and they came and saw me the day of the game, and they said, "Oh, are your parents?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he said, "Listen, tell your dad after the game, come and meet up with us and your mum, and then we'll show them the way." And my dad can handle his drink, so I went out with my friends afterwards. I've got in at like 1 a.m, and I've said to my mum, I was like, "Where's Dad?" He's in the toilet. He's finished, and he was a mess. They do this drink over there called Duvel. And I don't know if you've heard it.
Oh, we have.
And you would put a chocolate, you'd put a flake with it. That's just the froth on it and everything like that. And it's rocket fuel. And my dad didn't know this at the time, and he was drinking it like it was Heineken. And it got very messy, to say the least. But I enjoyed my time over there. Belgium's a good place, good people, and a great opportunity for Mark Mackenzie to go and really fulfill whatever he wants to do, because there's no doubt about it. He was a real standout player last season, I thought.
Standout player. He's also one of those players that's got that star quality. When he walks into a room, doesn't matter who's in the room, people look at him or drawn to him. So he's got that extra to him that I think people in Belgium are going to fall in love with, and wherever the next place people will fall in love with. He's just one of those people who's got that big quality.
One of the things that you always look at, and the really good centre-backs, the centre-backs that you look at and you think, you know what, this lad's got a chance, whoever it may be, you don't know how quick they are. And with Mackenzie, I watched so many games last season and was like, is he quick? I don't know. And that's a really good compliment, because he never found himself in a position where he had to actually use his pace to get him out of trouble. He would use his pace to cover his centre-back partner, as that's how it works in football. But as in terms of the situation, I never really, when I watched the games, I never really saw him in a position where I was like, whoa, you've just let that centre-forward get 5 yards away from you. But you know what? You're quick, so you've got back into position. I don't really know how quick he is, and that's a real compliment, because he's never had to rely on his pace to get himself out of a situation.
And the one thing this is why I know Mark is going to do well, is because when you go to practice, Mark, Brendan, Anthony Fontana, those guys would stay late.
It's no surprise.
Older guys were getting off to get the ice bath, whatever they had to do. they would always stay late. And then even today in the interview where Mark was like, I really wanted to go to Europe last year. And then Ernst sat me down and said, you're not ready. You're good. You're not ready.
Yeah.
And then even going, maybe he could have gone somewhere else. And he saw this team in Belgium and goes, this is the perfect place for me because I'm not the finished product.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for that. This is where I need to be
Yeah.
to take that next step, where not a lot of 21-year-old athletes have that kind of wisdom and self-awareness. So that's why I'm like confident he's going to do wonderful.
It's very big. It's like when I was a kid, obviously I was at United till I was 21, but from the age of say 10 to like 14, 15, we were in like what they call the School of Excellence. You'd go and train on a Monday and a Thursday, you'd be at the training ground, but indoor on AstroTurf pitches. And so let me think, like the class of 92, they're like 5 years older than me. So when I was like 11, 12 years of age, we would go training on a Monday and a Thursday, and without fail, Beckham, the Nevilles, Scholes and Butt, they would come and join in with our training every single Monday or every single Thursday. Now, bearing in mind, when you're an apprentice in England, as a footballer, you're there at 9 o'clock and you don't leave till 5 o'clock. Yes, there's training involved and everything, but you also have to do a lot of jobs around the training ground. Every job that somebody else doesn't want to do, as an apprentice, you're given it to do. So then they would do all the training sessions with us, and people are talking about Beckham having this natural talent, with his free kicks and the ability, one of the best free kicks, in my generation, one of the best free kick takers. But what people don't realise and what people don't see is that when I was 11 and when I would be walking out of the AstroTurf arena and getting into my dad's car to go home, he would be getting tyres and putting them in the corner of the goal. Every corner of the goal, he would be putting them in there at the age of 16, 17, and he would stay behind, having trained from 9 till probably 5 o'clock, then done a session with us later on, even though he was older than us. Then he would stay for another hour, just get a bag of balls to himself and just free kick after free kick after free kick after free kick. And what people don't realise is that what you see on the pitch, a lot of the time comes from hard work off the pitch, and he was a prime example of that. It was absolutely incredible. He didn't just have it by accident. It was something that he did have that ability, but he honed it and he just made it incredible from the training.
Yeah, and it's one thing. My good friend who's in London made me a Chelsea fan, so of course he never liked United.
Yeah.
Brought that into me. Biggest compliment he ever gave to David Beckham, and it was so true that he goes, of course, thought he was overrated, pretty boy, whatever. But every time he left the team, you saw the hole that he left.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just made everyone on the pitch so much better, the way he distributed the ball. And it was true. When he left United, you're like, whoa. When he left Spain, you're like, oh, what? And you just saw that there was a gaping hole after he left. But you didn't realize how good he was. But all his teammates knew how good he was because he was making you better. Yeah. And it's all that kind of hard work that...
Oh, it is. It's huge. It's like... One of the things that would frustrate me as I got a little bit older is that when I became a senior professional, I would see younger players that I know had talent, but they just wanted to do enough. And that was really frustrating at times for me as a senior player, because I would look at them and I just think to myself, if you just put in that extra bit of effort, the sky's the limit for you. But, you either have that mentality or you don't have that mentality. It's very difficult to give somebody that mentality. And a lot of the time it is from how you've been brought up, the clubs that you've been brought up and things like that, the way that it's been. And obviously, like you say, with Mackenzie and Aronson in particular, you look at them and they're two types of players that when you go and look at them, you're thinking, right, okay, I want to sign this player on his ability. I don't even need to question his character because the character comes out on the pitch without them even opening their mouths. And, that's something that stands out hugely.
Yeah, the players you talked about that have the ability and don't have the work ethic, in America we call that NBA professionals.
Wow. Hi, Adam.
Well, he's just mad he can't perform ballet on hardwood, that's all.
But no, so we talked about your time at Manchester, and then you've had a storied career. Now, if we asked, because everybody... a soccer fan in America, we all have our Premier League teams or our Bundesliga teams. Like Adam and I are, for some reason, proud Chelsea fans, even though we're not proud to be associated with most Chelsea fans. We love the club.
Look, I'm a fan of Didier Drogba, And then everything after that turned me into a Chelsea fan. However, I do not associate with Chelsea fans. I don't claim those people.
And Devin adopted this little club called Tottenham for some reason. So that's been hours of joy for us to pick on him about that. Now, would you consider yourself a United or Stoke?
100%.
Okay.
You know, yeah.
Was that a question? You were.
Let me go through the teams that he's like. This is like a list. So at some point, maybe he fell in love with.
The majority of them were towards like the last stages of my career, I think. Yeah. So that, yeah. But no, no doubt about it for me, when my whole family are Reds is in terms of Manchester United fans.
Right.
Growing up there was... the biggest thing that I had was that I made my debut for the team that I love, for the team that my family loves, when I was 19. And for me, it was always going to be difficult to top that. You know, it is. It was really difficult to top that because, you know, for me, it was a dream come true when I was a kid. Growing up, you know, whether it be Brian Robson, whether it be Mark Hughes, you know, whether later on it be Eric Cantona, people like that. It was just to actually pull on that shirt and, you know, play at Old Trafford in the Premier League was a dream for me. So, you know, I consider myself very fortunate to do that. I wasn't good enough to play for Manchester United because if I was, they wouldn't have let me go. But it's the simple facts, you know, that's the truth. But it was always going to be difficult for me because one of the highlights of my career was like at the age of 19, not because it was Manchester United, but because it was my club. It was a club that I'd supported all my life. And you ask most people, what's their dream to do? It's probably to play for the boyhood club who they support.
Yeah. Now, did you pop your collar like Cantona or no?
I did when I was a kid, yeah. I did when I was a kid. When I used to go and play on the park with my mates because the kit was perfect to do that.
One of my first trips to London, they all in London I ran into Cantona and had the boot mark on the T-shirt.
Oh yes,
that was
Cantona was here, and the date from Sellers Park. Yeah, no, he was a genius, and you know how much of a genius he was because they still sing his song now. What, over 20 years probably since he's left, and he was the final piece of the jigsaw. You know, there's a lot of young players at the club coming through. Sir Alex Ferguson put so much trust in them. You know, they allowed certain senior professionals to go. And Eric Cantona was there. And Eric Cantona and some of the older senior players as well, they just helped the younger players mature. And he was the final piece in the jigsaw, which then took United on the road to the success that they had for a number of years.
Now, you do mention United is your love, but we do have a friend of the pod, and I don't know if you've ever crossed paths, but you spent a little bit of time with his team, with Ipswich Town. Our boy, the producer of the Men in Blazers show, Jonathan Williams, was absolutely over the moon when you were coming to the Union because he's like club legend. There for like less than a year, but club legend. So he was.
Are you sure he doesn't support Norwich City there, bitter rivals? Because
I have the emails.
I went to Ipswich, and it was towards the end of my career. So I did my cruise ship at Stoke when I was 32. And you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I look back at that point in my career, and my challenge then was to prove to myself and to prove to anybody that I could get back from this cruise ship. And I was back in like 5.5, 6 months, which was stupid. And I was training, but I was limping on the pitch. And during those 5.5, 6 months when I was sort of battling myself and trying to prove people wrong that thought that my career was over, I used up everything that I had left. I mean, everything that I had left. And if I could rewind the clock, I probably maybe would have retired a little bit early, but you don't understand these things at the time, and you're always fighting against yourself. No, I can still do this, I can still do that. When in all reality, you can't. And I had a long spell at Forest, and I was there for about 5-6 games, and that went really well for me. And then the new season, I went to Ipswich, and Paul Jewell was manager, and then Mick McCarthy came in. Played the first few games under him, went really well, and then anything that I had left just like went to the point where we'd played a game and we'd been beaten 5 or 6-0, and then we're playing at home the next game, and he hadn't read the team out or anything. And I'm like, I'm actually going to be embarrassed if I'm playing, because it got to the point where I was really poor. And then Mick pulled me in, and I love Mick to pieces. He's one of the nicest, most genuine fellas you will ever meet. And he said, "Oh, Danny, I forgot to tell you, you're not playing tonight." I was like, "Listen, you don't need to tell me." He said, "No, I want to tell you why." And I went, "You can tell me why, no problems whatsoever, but I'm 34, whatever I was, 34, 35 years of age. I know why I'm not playing." And just said, "Well, just to put your mind at rest, it's because you were effing this time, what have you." And I was like, "Listen." And I stood up and I shook his hand. And I stayed there for a few months later and everything like that. And I think he wanted me around the place to help some of the younger players, the experience that I had and things like that. And then I went to Sheffield United. And then before I knew it, from when I left Ipswich, I was retired within a year. And then I've seen Mick recently. I actually worked with Mick a few times at Sky. And one of the commentators turned round to him and said, "So, tell us about Danny. Tell us what you really thought about him." And Mick went, "Not got a bad thing to say about Danny. He was great around the dressing room." And I just chirped in because I thought it was the best thing to do. And I just said I was all right as long as I wasn't on the pitch. And we just had a laugh about it. But it's, and I don't just attribute this to football. I attribute this to life as well. One of the strongest things you can know is your limitations. Know what your strengths are, know what your weaknesses are, and concentrate on your strengths. But I knew the minute that I didn't want to go into a 50-50 challenge, the minute I didn't want to get hurt anymore, I knew that was my career over. And, that sort of hit me. I always said that I wouldn't finish playing football until I knew what I was going to do next. And I promised some of my friends towards the end of my career that I'd go and play for my hometown club, which was a team called Altrincham. We were a non-league team. And I played the first game, and I think we won 5-3 or 5-4. And the second game, I think we got beat like 5-0. And there was a tackle after about 60 minutes, and I didn't go in for it. And I came off the pitch, went and saw the manager. I'd only played 2 games. I said, "Listen, I'm finished." He went, "What do you mean?" He said, "I've always said, when I don't want to get hurt on the football pitch, that's me finished. I'm not a player that's going to get the ball and take on 5 or 6 players, but I'm a player that will give everything. When I can't give everything on the pitch, you've got 20% of the player. And that's not fair on the team I'm playing for. It's not fair on me, and it's not fair on my family." So I remember listening to a saying quite a while ago, "Leave football before it leaves you." And I think I left just at the right time, and I don't have any regrets about it or anything, which is the key thing for me.
Yeah, because you hear that story with a lot of athletes of staying too long, not knowing when to hang it up. We see it in Philadelphia all the time. And you want to see your hero still do well, but you're like, "Oh God, you're a shell of yourself. Don't." And then how do you find that happiness afterwards? Which is a great transition, because kind of wanted to go. How did you make that transition from player to pundit?
Football had been, been the most important thing to me since I was a kid. And even growing up, I grew up in an area which was, my mum and dad worked really hard and things like that, but we didn't have much. We had very little. And what would happen was my dad would sit me down, or my dad in particular would sit me down and say, "Listen, when you're older, do you want a better life than this for your children?" And I was like, I didn't know any different. And he was just like, "Well, this is your opportunity." And he was so driven football-wise, complete opposite to me with my children. He wasn't driven education-wise. And if I played on a Saturday and a Sunday in games, and sometimes a game on a Friday, there was times when I would get up on Monday and I couldn't move at like the age of 10 or 11 because it was so full on. And I would have the day off school. But that's just how my dad was. That's how he was. And then, growing up for me then was something that was, you have to give everything. And I've always said that the worst thing I would want come the end of my career is for somebody to turn around to me and go, "You know what, you could have done more than what you did." Because there's nothing you can do about it then. Like, I always consider, like, people have come up to me in the past and said, "Oh, you overachieved." And I think they've tried to mean it as a bit of an insult, but I take it as the biggest compliment possible. Because it means that I took the tools that I had and actually used as much of it as I could. So I will always take something like that as a compliment. But as in terms of finishing, when I did my Crew shirt, it was just before the semi-final. So I missed the semi-final for Stoke in the FA Cup, and I missed the final. So obviously missed the FA Cup final. I was gutted about that, but I ended up doing some media stuff up and around the FA Cup final. And people remembered that then a couple of years later, and I was asked to do a few things. And what I found was that nothing had ever got in the way of my football. Then all of a sudden I was doing a pre-season session from, say, 9 till 4 in the afternoon, getting in my car, driving down to London, which was 3 hours away, doing a show 8 till 10, getting back in my car and driving back home, and getting home at like 1 o'clock, knowing that I had to get up at 6 o'clock to get back to training. And all of a sudden I was like, I had no issue with that. But then it got to the point where for the first time ever in my career, or the first time ever in my life, football was getting in the way of something. And for me, that was very, very fortunate because I found something else that I was really passionate about. And it was then getting to the point where it was like, right, okay, if I want to try and further my career in the media side of things, I'm going to have to stop playing football. And that's, a decision that I made in January, I think, 2014. And I've not missed a single day of it since, which I'm very, very fortunate, I must admit, to be able to say that.
Wow. So you're doing British broadcasting, Sky Sports. What is the big difference jump from something like Sky to NBC Sports in America?
The biggest compliment that I can give NBC is their attention to detail, the professionalism, the team ethic is second to none. It's absolutely phenomenal. Now, I did a few games, obviously commentary-wise, when I was in England for NBC. And Sky, Sky, I worked for Sky for a long time, and Sky were, everybody knows what Sky are like. Sky are incredible as well. Their attention to detail, everything. Everything I've said about NBC would be what I would say about Sky. And for me, in all honesty, I'm saying that when I've worked at NBC, it's on that same level. It is that good. And one of the beauties of it was that before I did the first show, I watched a couple of the shows from behind the scenes. And the work that everybody puts in there, not just on screen, but off screen as well. And then when you watch the show, in my opinion, you may say different, it doesn't look rushed. But for them to get 4 games in and to actually get team news, to get reaction after the game, to go through replays and to be able to study all of these things, 4 games in a day, to be able to do that and never ever look flustered, I just looked and I was like, wow, this is incredible. And that's probably the biggest compliment that I can give them. And I said it to everybody that worked there as well. They asked what did I think? And I was like, unbelievable. What you do, the amount of games that you cover, your attention to detail, and getting it in the time that you can get it in is brilliant. And it's been like surprising for me that I got involved with it, but it's been an absolute joy to be part of such a wonderful team and a wonderful company.
Yeah, and Adam can attest and even shed some light. Like, we are huge fans of Premier League Live. It's like, I can't imagine Saturday and Sunday mornings
I bet
now without it.
Yeah.
And you kind of fall in love with the people that are there. Like,
yeah,
to this day, I miss Kyle Martino. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I didn't like him as a men's player, but now I miss him. It's odd.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that we absolutely love the show.
Yeah.
And I attest it to the rising popularity of soccer in the United States. Because before that, I always said it was the FIFA game from EA Sports is what brought soccer to the youth and people really got into it.
Yeah.
And then the coverage that NBC did with Premier League Live, where it was in your local bar or in your living room on a Saturday morning, and you're like, hey, I could tell the girlfriend, the wife, I'm supposed to have a beer right now at 9 a.m. before I get into college football or on Sunday to NFL. So it's like, I can go out to the bars with my friends and this is okay. And like you said, the coverage has always been great.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Matt has just been looking for excuses to drink, and soccer just so happened to bestow upon him, such privileges.
I think when you look at the US men's national team, this is an exciting time. When you look at the younger players making their way in Europe now, whether it be in England, whether it be in Germany, whether it be in Spain, whether it be now in Belgium, whether it be in Austria, this is the time. You talk about Belgium, because obviously Belgium, how well they're doing now. They had their golden generation, how they did things. There's an incredible amount of talent coming through now. And, hopefully that will create the growth as well in America, plus the fact that the World Cup's coming in 2026, and it could just be all the stars aligning to make it absolutely perfect. Because the one thing I've seen over the last 12 years is coming each year I see more and more soccer shirts. Each year you see more and more shirts. Like, whoa, hang on a second. I didn't think I'd see one of those shirts here. So it's climbing, and the difference though between here in England is that the sport in England is football. It's as simple as that. Any other sport is a second best by a distance. Where over here there are a few sports that are very, very, very well sought after, very high. So you have to challenge with them as well, and it's the key of trying to get up there with them is in terms of that. And I think the US men's
And it's
team could have
even
a big
certain
part to play.
cities have their
Yeah.
own ranking of, that you have, like Philadelphia was a baseball town in the 70s,
Yes.
80s. Then it became football. And what's going to knock off the Eagles, who knows? But and different cities in the United States have got their own rankings. But with the World Cup coming, we see it every 4 years with the American squads doing well.
Well,
There's a huge spike.
I will say this though, the thing that impressed me the most has been the last couple of clubs that have come in. Atlanta obviously set a huge standard when they came into MLS, but also Cincinnati came in like a hurricane. That their support for them was through the roof. Nashville has been phenomenal in supporting that team. Orlando when they came in was fantastic. So what I think gives me the most hope for. I mean, like, soccer in America, the only thing it's really truly struggled from was a domestic league that actually, bore
Yes.
good enough fruit. The sport is the most played sport of our youth. Every single child I know has played soccer at one period of time in their life. Before they even put on football pads, before they put a basketball on, they kicked a soccer ball because, it's easy for a 2-year-old to kick a soccer ball. But regardless, it's ingrained in us. The only problem is our domestic leagues, like the NBA, is not only a great league, it's drama. It's a soap opera. It's so much more than just a sport. And like all of our leagues have that weird presence with it. MLS is getting there. And I think the uniqueness of what it is the demographics that it's hitting, particularly with the younger people, with people of international descent, and now it's hitting the heartland of America much more with like teams like Minnesota, teams like Kansas City really showing themselves. So it's a continental game now in this country. But more so than anything, it's just the teams that are now coming into this league have a certain amount of requirement to them. They have to put on a certain amount with them. They have to shell out enough of the money to have a plan in place, to have a stadium plan in place. We're not flying by the seat of our pants anymore. Like, I think NYCFC will be the last club we will ever wonder when they're ever going to get a stadium for it. Moving forward, you're not going to let a club come into MLS without plans, and I think that elevation of the game elevates it in the country.
Yeah, I think from myself, from the outside looking and obviously getting involved in it now and been watching from a distance, the one thing that stands out to me is that the room for growth is phenomenal. I think, the sky can be the limit. I don't think there's any question about that. And I think what heightens MLS is when you're seeing transfers to European leagues, when you're seeing the money that's involved in going into European leagues, then all of a sudden people are turning around and going, whoa, hang on a second. He's come from MLS and I was playing Europa League. He's come from MLS and I was playing Champions League. MLS must be a decent standard. We need to give it more credit than has been given previously. And I think that is only going to help it grow. And like I say, I think there's so much room for growth in such a positive way.
Yeah, we've talked about on this pod a lot where there's MLS 1.0. 2.0 might have been when Beckham came over. 3.0, where now we're not relying on grabbing guys that are ready to retire and bring them in. Yeah, like if Messi wants to retire, sure, that'll be a huge draw. But now you're not looking for those guys where you're developing. And I think MLS 4.0 will be when people like an Aronson or Mark McKenzie are the ones coming back to retire. Where they're like, hey, I did my stint in Europe. I'm 32. I'm coming home. And I mean, you'll see in the academy, on this pod, we've got a brilliant, guys, it's a 10-year plan. With our Elsinho 13-year-old team, we've got a team in the academy that are 13-year-old that are just tearing everybody up.
They were the U12s. I think they were like 11.
Last year.
Are they now 13?
Yeah, they're 13s now.
13 now.
That's how time works, Adam.
We think Elsinho is their secret father.
Stop.
But so these kids are on fire. So we're like, oh, in 10 years, they're all going to be 22 years old, playing on the squad, Christian Pulisic and Brendan Aronson are going to come back to Philadelphia just to wipe up the MLS. So
Look, if you don't believe Alphonso Davies is going to come back to Canada and be the greatest thing that has ever happened to that entire nation, like he made best, like he's going to make best 11, and he came from MLS, and we're just like, nope, we can't. Let's forget about like all the other players that we're now sending over there. We also forgot about this guy who literally just won Champions League a couple of months ago. Like it's crazy.
But you've also got the goalkeeper at Manchester City, Zach
from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
Coatesville.
So you had someone from Coatesville playing someone from Hershey last week.
Yep.
You know, and those things get remembered. Those things, you know, and it's. But I think what happens then is that if you get a young player from MLS going into Europe and really doing well, and then getting another move to Neva, all of a sudden everything just opens up, and because what happens then is that everything relates back to MLS. Not because it's where they had their successful period, but it's where they began. And that's when people are going to be saying, well, people then can't turn around and go, well, yeah, well what about the standard of MLS? People then can then turn around and go, and I know it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, look at Ibrahimovic. People said, oh, he went to MLS and did this, and this is why he scored so many goals. He's now going to do it in Serie A. Yep. So all of a sudden, if you've got the likes of Aronson, if you've got the likes of McKenzie, who now go and hit it off in Europe, all of a sudden it's like, wow, they came from MLS. They must be doing something right there. And that's only going to create more hype, more positivity, and more exposure.
Yeah. Devin, I don't know if you realize this, but I think we've got our fourth member of RV Salzburg supporters group. I think Danny's going to join us at the bars to watch RB Salzburg in whatever bar we can get the game on, and we're going to be...
We told Brendan we're gonna...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We can't support Red Bull in this family, so we've made RV Salzburg, and, you know, we're gonna root for them as hard as we can with shirts we're going to make up eventually.
Yeah, you got Jesse March as well, who's the manager.
Yep.
Yeah.
Synergy.
Well, he was
Jesse March, who picked him up from the airport when he landed. So there you go.
Because he wanted someone to speak English to him when he got there.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I saw that picture and it was Aronson and Jesse Marsh doing the little bro like handshake thing, the really white guy handshake.
No, I
first thought it was.
What is the handshake that was it Schwarzenegger and Danny Glover did at the end of oh god, what is it? He's like, Dylan, you son of a bitch. It's that handshake where they both come together and just flex really hard. No.
I'm telling you, when I first saw that picture, I thought it was Rusty, his father. And then because I'm like, well, that's a bad look, man. I don't want our kid like having his dad fly him over to Europe. And then he goes, oh shit, no, that's Jesse Marsh. It's okay. But I didn't realize they look pretty similar, man. Like,
it's his doppelganger. His father's actually Jesse Marsh. This is how
this
it
is just narcissism on Jesse Marsh's part. He's just like, I want a team that looks like me. That's what I
was like, when did Rusty Aronson become LeVar Ball? I'm like, damn it, leave the kid at the airport and go. Come on.
Look, if he sends two of his kids over to Europe, he's pretty much America's LeVar Ball in soccer. I don't know what to tell you.
Are you going to buy shoes from him?
I mean, I ain't going to buy his shoes, but I'm going to respect the fact that, look, man, LeVar had top 3 picks for kids. Respect the hustle.
Well,
the rusty ones ain't got a ring to it. You don't want the...
As long as they're not done by Under Armour, I think we're going to be okay.
All right, Matt, Devin, you want to hit the rapid fire questions?
I was reading your mind. So, Danny, we've got a couple of rapid fire questions for you. You work alongside Wimbledon legend Robbie Earl.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you know this, but he is the childhood hero of Marcus Mumford from the band Mumford & Sons.
Right.
Not sure if you... Yeah.
I didn't know that. I know Mumford & Sons, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to know if you knew that. Have you ever leveraged this knowledge to getting backstage passes? And if you haven't, can you? I'm asking for a friend.
Well, unfortunately, I like Mumford & Sons, so whoever your friend is, you can forget about it because I'm going to use it for my own. And one of the songs that they do, and what you'll have to do is the title of one of their songs. Is it called I Will Wait?
Yeah.
So you're going to have to do that.
I'll be waiting outside the parking lot with beers. Don't worry.
But that's a great bit of info. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. The only reason I knew it was girlfriend and I went to the concert in Philadelphia. The next day, Premier League Live was doing their morning show in New York City at the Pier.
Yeah.
And Mumford & Sons, they came in. So I'm going, we just saw them, and we left that concert at 1 a.m., and these guys were in New York, and Marcus Mumford looked like he saw a god when he was talking to him, and he goes, "He was the legend." I'm just like, and my girlfriend and I are just like nursing hangovers, drinking coffee, and we're like, "Holy crap!" So yeah, it was interesting. All right, last question from me. What is a dupe in the old onion bag?
Do you want the serious answer? Yeah, it's a goal.
Oh, okay.
It's Tommy Smith saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in the old onion bag, and they put the onion in the onion bag in the back of the goal.
And we've embraced it, but what we really want to know, and this is what's yours? Do you have any inkling what your catchphrase is going to be? It's America. Everybody needs a catchphrase.
I'm gonna have to work on it because I don't have a catchphrase. So I'm gonna maybe I could get some help with that.
I think we've got some suggestions. Devin, you got something from the Discord?
All right, so these questions are from the Sons of Ben Discord server. From Justin, he asked, "Do you know what John means, and how many times will you use it in a broadcast?"
I know what John means, and I don't like to use the toilet during a game.
There it is.
That's the best answer I heard all night. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That's actually better than I could have hoped. That was amazing.
And then I'll only throw one more question out there from Mike. Maybe a little unrelated, but have you interacted with Union Hulk? And if so, we are sorry.
I think I have. I think I actually followed him.
Yeah.
That's probably the best answer you can give to the public, because that means you are now one of us. Now that you follow Union Hulk, you understand the voice of the people. You know, that's our guy. That's our man.
To understand how much Union Hulk is a part of our culture, Brendan Aronson thanked him as a member of the Philadelphia Union community.
Oh, yeah. He thanked the Sons of Ben, and then right behind Union Hulk for being there for him the entire time. So that's a good follow for you. You'll get a lot out of that. Danny, I swear I cannot thank you anymore for sharing your wisdom, sharing the stories, and especially putting up with our goofy, crappy questions, because that's what everyone, including Union Hulk, wants to hear. That's why we don't get paid for this pod, because of those questions. But
also demonetized.
Yeah. So, but no, thank you so much, and we are so excited to have you part of the Union family. We hope that you can, once COVID's over, maybe meet us out at a tailgate before a game. Bring the family, you know. In fact, we do want the family, since the wife's from Kappa, you know, Kappa alumni in South Philly. We got to think that she's good at doing chants, so we think we need her on the capo stand with Adam.
It wasn't that. Definitely not.
Well, we're still sending the invite anyhow. But Danny, thank you so much for hopping on.
No, you're welcome. My pleasure.
Everybody, thank you very much for joining us for episode number Jamie Moyer, number 50. Remember out there, wash your hands.
Sexy season part 2.